All right, welcome back. Let's take our minds back to Wednesday, where the South African Auditor General, Kimi Makwetu, released the 2013-2014 audit results on municipalities. According to the report, financial management of municipalities in South Africa improved with the 2013-2014 fiscal year. While this is seen as an achievement, the findings indicate a 34% rise in unauthorized expenditure over the same period. The Auditor General is in studio with us to tell us a little bit more about these outcomes. Good to see you. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Leon.
Overall, again, I suppose one can't say that these are positive results because they're really not. When we just break it down, 40 of the country's 278 municipalities and 18 out of 57 municipal entities achieve clean audits. Those aren't good numbers, are they?
If you look at where we come from, Leanne, which is the base year 2007, 2008, that's the year where we had about 7 in total of clean audits. And we had about 126 that were disclaimed, which means that with the ones that were disclaimed, the auditors weren't able to express an opinion about 6 years ago. Came the launch of Operation Clean Audits in 2009. Now, what we are showing here is a reflection over this 5-year, among others, to say from that 2% of clean audits in 2007, it's now at 17% on the positive side. From the 35% of disclaimers, is now sitting at 16%. So if you look at those two elements, I think it's desirable to recognize that as some improvement.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So there is a slight improvement, but still work needs to be done. And when I talk of the work that needs to be done, this irregular expenditure, and this is where the alarm bells go off, where we've got at this point 11.4 billion rand that basically just goes unaccounted for, and that's an increase from 8.5 billion previously. So this is quite a big gap.
It's a big gap, and I think it's important for the public to also understand where this irregular expenditure comes from and what it is about.
Yeah.
I'll just cite an example. If you look at the financial statements, for example, of a municipality like Majabeng in the Free State, they have been purchasing goods and services like any other municipality will do. But in their books, if you look at their financial statements, you'll find that they have listed the instances where they have not followed the rules for supply chain. And some of the reasons that they are attributing to not following the rules is that there was a sole supplier or there was an emergency. Now, that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
So what you are saying in terms of this irregular expenditure is that if you give us those reasons, then it's going to become irregular expenditure. It doesn't mean that you lost all the money, but you did it in a way that is not transparent and nobody would know who you were trading with and on what basis. That is the context of this irregular expenditure. So it's not completely lost because some of the goods that were bought were received. However, we think that the lack of transparency is the big issue because it could facilitate wrongdoing if that is not addressed.
Yeah. Some of the analysis that I've been reading, now we've obviously had a day or two for people to look at the numbers, talk about it, and some of the conclusions that people are coming to is that money is disappearing in the system and things are getting worse. That money could be used in these municipalities, and we're talking billions for the betterment of people's lives, and yet it's unaccounted for, it disappears, and it goes to who knows where, because that's the reality. We have to find out and stop this drainage of funds that should be used for good. How did Pravin Gordhan feel about this, the Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs Minister? This is the first time he's overseeing this.
At the media release that we had on Wednesday, Leanne, he did not mix his words in respect to issues of the role that must be played by the leadership of the institutions, as well as he made a call to us to say that he thinks we need to intensify our effort as an audit office to focus on the area of fraud and corruption in local government. It's something that we do from a planning point of view to incorporate those processes, but I think he's very interested in us going a lot deeper than we have done before. Having said that, I think I'd also like to highlight the fact that there's quite a number of municipalities. I think if you look at our report where we profile the ones that have achieved clean audits, we have gone out to them to see exactly what is it that they were doing with the funds. And certainly the point you were making about municipalities that are able to record, account for, keep records, and report accurately on their transactions have also got something physical to show for it. We've seen the likes of your water treatment plants and many other projects that are associated with the delivery of services in local government. They are there. They are being used for purposes of delivering services. So what we are saying is that much as there may not be a direct link, scientifically speaking, between an opinion of an auditor as well as the experience of service delivery. But I think one of the things we've unearthed with the number of municipalities in KZN, in the Western Cape, in Mpumalanga, and in the Eastern Cape, is that the expenditure is on the back of some significant assets that need to be commended in that instance, because it's not money that has been attached to a clean audit without the buying of significant assets that will enable the delivery of services.
Who are some of these municipalities? I think we should give credit where credit's due.
Well, you've got a number of them in places like George, in the Western Cape, Overstrand. You've got Hesekwa in the Western Cape, then the West Coast in the Western Cape. You've got Umhlatuze in KZN, Utungulu, Mgungundlovu, many others, including the likes of Steve Chwete, Ehlanzeni, Sarah Patman in the Eastern Cape is one of two, for example. So you've got quite a spread of them. The only ones where, unfortunately, we did not have clean audits and we didn't go, as we have said in our report, is Limpopo, is Free State and Northwest. Those ones are pretty much the bottom of the pack, if you like. But the ones that we saw earlier, and it was very interesting to see that when you talk about financial statements, you're not talking about people buying lunch and buying meals for meetings only. There's quite a significant number of assets. Some of them are assets for delivering water, for waste treatment, for electricity and expansion of townships across the country. And there's quite a lot of other activities that happen in the form of the delivery of capital assets. So we think that that is a positive sign to know that part of these that are clean are also spending their money on things that are expected to be delivering services.
I know, and just very quickly to finalise this, I mean, you mentioned the Minister Godan saying that underperforming councillors must go. That is one of the things he's come up with. The other thing, and I know you've spoken about this many times before, is this over-reliance on consultants. Too much money is being spent on consultants. Is this a problem where there is a severe lack of skills?
There are a couple of things linked to it, Leanne. One is the issue about the skills not being in place at the time that they need them. But secondly, I think the lack of consequence, because people spend money on these service providers year in, year out. They end up with a disclaimer for 3, 4, 5 years in succession, and every year they've got a bill in excess of R1 million to pay to a service provider. So we are arguing that this is not good enough, because in the absence of consequence, then you are wasting good money. It would have been better if you didn't spend that money and ended up with the same outcome. So those are some of the efficiency issues that we are raising. However, we also do appreciate the fact that certain of the external service providers have got their head against the wall, basically, because they arrive at these municipalities where there is no real documentation to produce for them to make a big difference. So it's a litany of problems that requires the attention of leadership at the first instance.
We have to leave it there. Auditor General Kimi Makwetu, thank you so much for talking to us here about this. The 2013-2014 audit results on municipalities were released on Wednesday. That was just an analysis of them. Let's take a break.